Good morning, everyone, or whatever day you're facing. Might not be the best. Yesterday was dreary for me. I wasn't a little ray of sunshine when the day started, but today it's feeling a little better. Now, Tinfoil Hat Tuesday for me is special. Whenever I get here last week, heavy with the nut job stuff, but that's okay. Sort of been part of the journey the whole time. Now, gonna watch some Tucker. As always, you can not like him. You can really be into him. It's the subject matter that is getting talked about a little bit more. And I'm thinking, hoping, fingers crossed, that over the next couple years, this subject will actually come to light. Now, as about a minute into this, I believe we're just meeting the gentleman that Tucker is going to interview. And then we're going to skip to the 9/11 Commission at Building 7. It's an hour and 20 minutes. I highly, if you're interested, go search out Tucker. Over here, over on X, is easy to find him. So, I mean, it's not like YouTube or something like that. He probably sell you some Alp. I don't know. If you're interested, you can strap on the hat and look into the nicotine tied to, what nicotine destroys or blocks the receptors for and keeps other things. It's weird. I don't know. I'm crazy stuff.
Actually, I had quite an illustrious career, 27 and a half years in the FBI.
No, this isn't the guy at
And in those 27...
Yeah, I know this is, but we're still, it's another gentleman, Kurt Weldon. But this is a bunch of people who question the main narrative, but I don't know. I didn't recognize him.
2.5 years, I had 13 assignments, so I moved around the country. The only part of the country I never did live in was really the extreme northeast U.S. So also during my career, I handled just about everything. I was counter-espionage, counter-terrorism in New York and Connecticut, and I negotiated with some skyjackers at Philadelphia International Airport for 2.5 hours, July the 12th, 1972. And I ended up being in charge of most of Southern California. Had over 700 personnel under my command. I personally investigated the Oklahoma City bombing case.
That one's pretty big for me. This is what I wanted to get to. This is just not saying it's true. I'm saying all my opinions are for entertainment purposes only. Food for thought, especially if you're interested in the ideas. If they go contrary to what you are planning, I would, find something else now. I have been talking about a lot of these subjects since they happened, and the inconsistencies with the official narrative. Right? I mean, I think that's a fine place to admit as a starting point, and shouldn't be controversial. And as far as I can tell, the evidence says I should never just believe an official narrative. Appears they're always constructed to move my heart and my mind in a certain direction. Probably to give someone else permission to do stuff that they shouldn't really be doing.
Huge cover-up. Jack Kennedy's assassination, huge cover-up. Bobby Kennedy's assassination, huge cover-up. World Trade Center, huge cover-up. Okay. Terrorism. They're using it as an excuse to take away our constitutional...
Now, this is what I heard, and I was like, I better start with this. Because I do. For entertainment purposes only. I believe the whole plan was to turn these rules and regulations against the people. Seems like there's a solid track record, of that happening. So I didn't think it was a stretch ever. As always, I tend to appreciate the trigger discipline of, let's say, the Second Amendment folks. And it turns out that I still think they're going to wield these powers against people. Just not the one, just not the citizens, really. I'm hoping they wield it against criminals, but I don't know. I think it'll get corrupted. And, you'll easily be praying on a street corner and find yourself in an El Salvadorian prison. Seems like that's what they want to do. I don't support that. Seems like Alex Jones and the Prison Planet theory is literally just marching into place, and half the world celebrates its arrival. So I have no idea. I really don't, but I know we're on 9/11 and Building 7 this morning.
Rights and our civil liberties. The Bilderbergs used to take away our constitutional rights and our civil liberties. The Bilderbergs. I'm Ted L. Gunderson.
All right.
27.
Now, this is just to say that this discussion we're going to watch here is not unique, I think is the point there. And like I said, one doesn't make the other true. But if I can find 5, 6, 8, 10 individuals telling me a similar story, I might actually think there's some credibility to it. So this next section, I think, has actually been spoke on quite often, and I am a long ways from the first person to ever question it. Because the 9/11 report sits in the background of reactions every now and then. I had a vested interest for many years watching it all take place and then watching every story get massaged and manipulated. So I'd be angry at someone else and never look within. Except what I saw probably could have only been achieved from within, Building 7 being that evidence.
I think it's easy to go off on different tangents, but just to the extent that you can describe what you know to be true, you said don't want to speculate as to motive, for example, but what you know to be true, what do you think the core truth of 9/11, September 11th, 2001 is?
I don't, at this point in time, I have my own perceptions. I don't have something I can give 100%.
Oh, wait. His opinions shall be for entertainment purposes only, but he got a good feeling. I don't think good is the right word to use here. He's got a feeling of dread that leads him to believe it could be the case. But nobody's saying, Bush went in there and charged and set the charges himself. Nobody, I don't think anybody's saying that. Of course, I think he knew 100%. That fiasco in the school was kind of the evidence of that, in my opinion. But, it worked for the cheap seats, and they bought it right up.
Weird. Own perceptions. I don't have something I can give 100%. I can't swear on, but what I'm seeing bothers me to the core of my body. That 9/11 did not happen because a group of hijackers got control of some planes. First of all, I have confirmed that 2 of the hijackers that were on one of the planes in New York were working for the CIA. They were on the CIA payroll. And that was confirmed to me by someone in writing from one of our agencies, and I have that letter. So 2 of the people involved were actually working for the CIA in one of the planes. I know that. And they lost control of them. And there were reprimands against those agency people after the fact. Second, I know the intelligence, they tried 3 times to transfer the information about information that could have prevented 9/11. That's fact.
To the Justice Department.
And I have the name of the person that at the Justice Department they contacted, and she was told to cancel the meetings. They couldn't have the meetings.
Who did that order come from? Who?
That's what needs to be investigated.
Okay.
And then we have John Crane, the Inspector General of the Pentagon, who went to the extent of issuing a request for whistleblower status because he was told to lie to the Congress and lie about pre-9/11 intelligence and able danger. And then we have General the book by the general and his comments that he knew within seconds. None of this is in the 9/11 Commission report. The 9/11 Commission report is a piece of garbage.
Well, then you also have it. I mean, this is just a fact. I don't know what to make of it. But
And somewhere in here, we might get to it, we might not. The NIST report has been completely demolished. That the Alaskan the architect department or architecture or design or engineering division respected enough that we should get 15 other colleges to run the numbers as well, because something that big can't just go left. I wonder why we're talking about it this morning. Because it's still so important. And instead of waiting until everyone involved is gone, this is one of those things where maybe accountability for that creates a chain of a chain reaction. It's sort of like uncovering the fraud and the deceit. I'm hoping it becomes the snowball of unstoppable size. Because honestly, if I'm supporting a system, now this is just me personally, but if I'm supporting a system with, let's say, forced tribute to the state in the form of taxation, then I would want the state to represent some ideas that I could be okay with. And we're so far from that it hurts me, my heart and soul. And I think accountability would be a damn good place to start. Transparency and accountability. And I don't care what side it's on. That's the beauty of transparency, open sourcing information, accountability for action and deeds. It covers both sides. It covers everybody. Then if you're working in the shadows, you must be working through deceit. Instantly, no good. Wrong way to see things. At no point does anybody have to protect us for our own benefit. Oh, we can make our own decisions. I do not need my intellectual better to tell me what's good for me. As always, none of them in the restroom in the morning doing my heavy work. Nobody taking care of my business ever. Maybe you do you. Elitist douchebag control mongers in the background staring over your shoulder. Not present company, of course. I hope we always understand that. Now, except for I woke up to a, hey, keep drinking, a-hole comment kind of thing. And I'm like, yep. Nope, been wasted the whole time. I'm guilty.
It's a piece of garbage.
well, then you also have it. I mean, this is just a fact. I don't know what to make of it, but you have a guy called Alex Jones, who's a broadcaster, who said that summer that the World Trade Centers are going to hit by.
All right, the lone gunman. This was, you'd have to go back to look at Crowleyan magic. Alex Crowley and the quotes about having to divulge, having to let everyone know the plans. And they're all waiting for like something to disappear or a lady to get cut in half. And the magical spell is actually to bind and control them. Who knew that's what magic powers really were? The focused will to enslave others. Magic.
By planes, and a guy called Osama bin Laden is going to be blamed. He said that on tape with a timestamp, so we know that that actually happened. That's not making it up. It's not a conspiracy theory. He said that. And it's like, how would he know that? That's so far out of the realm of what anyone was thinking in Washington, where I lived at the time. So then my question is, okay, if
Scenarios.
I'm Philip Zelikow, the guy running the 9/11 Commission, I'm calling Alex Jones immediately, saying, come on in, under oath, and we're going to find out, how did you know that? And instead, the U.S. government, the FBI in particular, set about to destroy Alex Jones and almost succeeded. I mean, they engineered $1 billion judgment against him, et cetera, but they really have like tried to kill him.
Yeah. But remember, and then they lie about this. They lie about this. They lie about this safe and effective. Or 100% safe and effective. Where are the lawsuits on anyone who said that? Because I feel for anyone who lost someone in a tragedy. But that might be the biggest lie told to the world. And no, I am no longer I am so far from the only one saying that it's safe. Well, it wasn't safe and it wasn't effective, but it's safe to say it wasn't safe and effective. That's coming out too. So it's interesting what the future holds. I will say, as scary as it is, this timeline is really interesting. Holy shit.
For saying that. And it's like, if you wanted to get to the truth, why would you act that way? Okay. Why would you knock you out of Congress?
At the time,
they don't want to get to the truth. They never want to get to the truth. They want to develop a story that affects the hearts and minds of the listener so then they can be swayed to make decisions that go beyond their better judgment. It's just like advertising. It's literally a thing they do to us all the time.
That. And it's like, if you wanted to get to the truth, why would you act that way? Okay. Why would you knock you out of Congress?
At the time of 9/11, I had been to the World Trade Center in 93. The governor of New York, Mario Cuomo, called my office, talked to me personally, thanked me for coming up. He watched my 1-hour presentation. I was back up there with Ray Downey. I brought Ray Downey's widow and 5 kids down to my district after 9/11 to honor him as a hero. I was up all during the 9/11 incident at Ground Zero. And I did everything I could and I felt responsible. Do you know the 9/11 Commission would not let me testify before the commission? Now, I'm a firefighter. I'm a fire chief. I'm a state fire instructor. I spent my whole career helping protect people from disasters. The 9/11 Commission, even though my experience as a member of Congress, Vice Chairman of Defense and Homeland Security, would not call me to testify, would not call me to go in and speak before the 9/11, because they knew what I would say. So when the commission said it's going to issue its report.
All right. So this happened to me personally. My friend did something horrendous, just horrific when I was young. And did in his parents in the middle of the night. Horrible. But the neighbor, our friend, our buddy, our pal, our compadre, he had been supplying some pretty powerful drugs. And there's strong evidence that it got my buddy whacked out of his gourd, not excusing his behavior was wrong and horrible. But there was other things involved. And I wanted to, I'm like, hey, I will testify that dude was supplying everybody drugs. At least take him down with it. For getting them all riled up high and then letting them loose. I don't let my friends go home angry. Nah, dude, fuck them. Let's stay out. Right? But no. I'm not allowed to go to court. I'm not allowed to go to the trial. Oh, no, you're his actual party friend. We don't want to talk to you. But this girl who barely knows him, we're going to let her testify. And it was like ridiculous how instead of multiple versions of what went on and people deciding what really happened, there's a constructed narrative to get a confession or a plead or a something. Now, at no point was it going to justify what he did, but then where was there someone in court talking about parents leaving them in the car when they went to dinner because they were ashamed of them? Was there anything that pointed out rich mom and dad as abusive and controlling? Addiction being a trigger. Any of that stuff? Or was it that the metalhead kid freaked out and killed his parents and he just railroaded him because gosh, that metal music and alternative lifestyle choices was problematic in 86. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I'm just one douchebag on the internet, but fuck, I went through that personally. So I mean, I can't imagine what big things go through. How many people act? Well, it's all the individuals that saved people from blowing up stairwells on that day, and then somehow did themselves in. What blew my mind is going down the list of how many whistleblowers and inside victims from 9/11 were so depressed they took their own lives. The list is disgustingly long. And then, as a crazy person, that there's no coincidences. That's stupid. That's to brush off the fact that you don't want to address the universe controlling things and that we're not in control at all times. Sometimes we put it out there and we can't stop the energy. We can't stop the beast we created. Man, I hope this monster's coming down finally. Because the 9/11 kaiju has been stomping through the cities of my soul for decades.
Before the 9, because they knew what I would say. So when the commission said it's going to issue its report, which was
pardon to interrupt, what year was that?
It was when the report was released. I think it was 2005. So what I did, the report was being released in the Ways and Means room of the Cannon Building. I went over. I sat in the front row to be the first one. Lee Hamilton and Tom King were up there. Good people. I don't blame them.
Yeah.
It wasn't them. It was the staffers that controlled this. It wasn't the commissioners.
This is a Zelikow guy.
That's right. Zelikow and Gorelick. And Dieter Snell. Dieter Snell was a staffer working for them.
Jamie Gorelick, who
Jamie
was
Gorelick.
Clinton DOJ.
Appointee who wrote the firewall memo that said you can't transfer military intelligence to civilian law
I
enforcement.
think Bill Kristol's cousin, too, unless I'm
I don't know.
misremembering that.
Maybe that's the case. So I
I
sat in the
think
front
that's
row
right.
and I said, Lee, why did you not allow me to testify? And he said to me, well, Congressman, we had a lot of people that wanted to testify. Now I'm the representative of all the firefighters in the country. I'm the point person for the firefighters.
Yes.
I'm a firefighter and a fire chief. I'd been at the Trade Center in 93. I'd been there at 9/11, and they would not let me testify because they didn't want to hear what I had to say.
What would you have said? And
I
what
would have said that we caused this.
What do you mean?
With the intelligence, I have the evidence that we could have stopped this. Not me. Louis Freeh said that. Based upon what I came out with, Louis Freeh's op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, which I can give you a copy of, said the 9/11 Commission was an incomplete investigation. And he also went on Good Morning America and said the same thing. They tried to blame Louis Freeh because Louis Freeh had left the FBI the year before 9/11 happened. So he was their scapegoat.
Now, when thinking about this, I think the secret leadership is on all sides. In no way am I a partisan on this thing. I believe they're separate from the figureheads and illusionary play that we all take part in. The act that is our lives. And half of it, I think, is trying to keep it in balance so it doesn't implode. The other half is trying to exploit it for every ounce of juices it can drip. But I think this story, what happened in 9/11 and how it all came together is a good example of that. The secret, shadowy, blood sacrifice cult that runs things, we're pulling the strings the whole time. I'm not saying they sunk the Titanic to get rid of everyone that opposed the Fed, but the internet says, the crazy section says that. Have you read, I haven't read Creature of Jekyll Island, but I understand its importance in the canon of conspiracy theory lore. Right? Refreshing to hear this so close to it obtainable by mainstream listeners. Because it it existed, right, from Loose Change, Zeitgeist to many other high-end works that, got seen but fly under the radar because people just aren't prepared. Maybe they're prepared. What energy shot everything out sideways? That earthquake, unfortunate, tragic earthquake that just brought down a skyscraper in construction, is a really telling piece of video. Because we saw what a tall building collapsing into its own foundation looks like through exterior forces. And straight down, no lateral ejection ever. And if gravity is doing the job, then where did the lateral ejection of parts and debris come from? I struggle with the physics quit working portion of the 9/11 report and the NIST findings. I'm just saying, if the answer is physics quit working, I'm telling you, it doesn't take a rocket scientist. It takes them chicks that just went up to. Oh, I'm a bad man for thinking that, but yeah. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what the hell's going on. They told you physics quit working for 3 seconds. That's the conclusion. Failure of imagination, and physics turns off and on because the government says so.
And to this day, I think Louis very upset over that.
Yeah.
I
believe
upset
that.
about that.
So the only way around this is to have for the firefighters of America and for our country, to have an independent commission be appointed and give that commission full authority to take this wherever it goes, including the end result. And the end result may be very ugly.
There's a sense in which that's pretty obvious. I mean, like, why is anything from 9/11 still classified? It's our country. It happened to 3,000 of our fellow Americans. We have an absolute right to know what happened. It's not even a question. And it was almost 25 years ago. So, like, spare me your lectures about national security. But can I ask you this? So, by the way, I never questioned anything about 9/11, and I actively attacked people who did. I'm ashamed of that, but.
So I don't care if people hate him. I just don't. I believe Tucker's redemption story arc is brilliant. If it's a plan, because I'm crazy and I'm not stupid, it's just be part of the problem too. Okay, I accept that. And if it's just a story arc, his redemption story arc on 9/11 is exceptional. The amount of altar of sacrifice he's willing to throw himself on and own his shortcomings in that area, I will keep listening.
That's a fact. I did it on tape more than once. Because my feeling was, well, like, that's divisive or whatever. I was a child and an idiot. But what began to make me wonder, and I have no idea what happened in 9/11, but it's very clear that there's a lot of lying around it, was the collapse of Building 7. And all the wackos would be like, Building 7, Building 7. I'd be like, shut up, wackos. And then...
Wacko. And I believe Marty for sure will be this far. Wacko, bro. I guess I'm cool wearing that title. If it meant I saw what everyone should have saw day one. Even if they were telling me the truth, I needed a better explanation on how. Especially for what they engaged in with the hearts and minds activity of the people. What they were able to do with the rage it created. Yeah, no, I'm happy being a nut job. Happy being crazy.
7. And all the wackos would be like, Building 7, Building 7. I'd be like, shut up, wackos. And then if you just sort of look at it, you're like, well, that is very weird, actually. No plane hit that building. And does this happen a lot when buildings catch fire? Right, okay.
Besides being a firefighter, I work for the INA, largest insurance company in North America. I was responsible for training their fire protection arson people for 18 years. That doesn't happen. You never have a 47-story building just collapse which this is. Even Donald Trump, I have a tape of him speaking on 9/11, and Donald Trump, which I'll give you a copy
I've
of,
seen it. Yeah.
in his own words, says that's controlled demolition.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of people that literally said what got said live. This is there's a video floating around out there called "Only Aired Once," and what was that, Brokaw or one of them, literally was talking about having to get to the eternal internal superstructure of a building because his eyes. Because sometimes you just have to say what you're seeing at the moment. You can be wrong. Maybe you have manifested that ghostly apparition and you're just making it up. But you better be able to speak on it to start, because by the time it's all said and done, someone else is going to say, nah, you didn't. Okay, that ghostly apparition, you're right, you got me. I was wrong about that one. But damn, did that not look like controlled demolition from the get-go? The visceral fear from the planes let me lie to myself and tell myself I didn't see what I really just saw. I believe that's the truth. I believe that's for sure part of the manipulation that day.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly looks that way. I mean, look, I don't know.
See, here's what they did. They brought in NIST. They brought in NIST to do a report.
Can you tell us what NIST is?
NIST is the National Institute for Standards and Technology to do an assessment. Now, they're like any other federal agency, and there are good people there, but there are people that want their jobs and want their careers, and they're not going to rock the boat. And they came out with a report that's hogwash. University of Alaska, which is a very credible engineering department, did a full refutation of the NIST report, saying it's full with gaps and full with inaccuracies and areas where they did not get the right information. Let me just say this to you. People say, well, you can't question NIST. NIST always does the right thing. When I went to Congress, Tucker, in my first term, I'm 2 doors from the Speaker's office, Speaker Jim Wright. His office catches on fire. It's 7 o'clock at night. As a firefighter, I go up, punch the door open, get down on my hands and knees, crawl in. The kitchen's fully involved. This is all documented. You can read about it. And said to my staffer, go get me the portable extinguishers. 3 of the 5 weren't charged. I said, go get me the hose in the hose station. There was no hose in the hose station. I come back out, and I say, we got to evacuate the building. Now, I'm in my first term. It's a 7-story building above ground. No sprinklers, no detectors, no alarms. Here is the building, one of the 6 office buildings holding the House and the Senate, in violation of every building code and fire code in America. Now, I'm an expert on NFPA.
No, I'm not an expert on anything, but that appears to be why we would need that accountability and transparency. Because someone, I know in the cartoon, someone took a payoff to glue a fake one to the ceiling. Why is it the cartoons know that we're being embezzled from and cheated at all times, but real life, that's too controversial to discuss? Is it because the loudest voices receive a handout? And by cutting off that handout, you rile up the loudest voices and then create a narrative once again? Because I just think if there's actual building code, you should be up to code or get shut down. And my grandfather was an electrical inspector who was very disliked because his conviction record was 100% on violations. So that was here's my family background. It turns out I really do, even if it tarnishes this family name, would rather see accountability. His reasoning was if one kid died from faulty electric that he could have forced them to change, it was his fault. Now that's what I call accountability. And then wielding authority correctly. So I always believe in moral authority and having the upper hand to deal with situations. It appears we've given that up to the weakest among us who just steal from us. Who cares? I got paid. My yacht's fueled up. F them.
A101, the Life Safety Code, and the BOCA codes. This building, if NIST did its job, NIST would have said, if you're going to be in Congress, you're going to work in a building where your constituents who are blind and handicapped are not going to feel threatened. 7 stories above ground. No alarm system.
I see this guy. He didn't get called because he's passionate. Damn. He's right, though. Right? He's right.
Threatened. 7 stories above ground. No alarm system. No detection system. So a fire's occurring, and the police are running through the building yelling, "Fire, get out." That's you cannot trust the federal agencies.
Obviously. Of course. That's obvious now. But tell us, like, from an engineering perspective, like, what you had 3 buildings come down, sort of collapse in on themselves, implode, it looked like. And
it did look like
a lot of people have said, many credible, non-crazy people have said that was controlled demolition. Was it?
Well, when I got up there the day after, I had been in the Trade Center at the restaurant on the top several times. There's no way those 2 buildings could have collapsed into what they were there. Something had to happen.
Was that obvious to you immediately?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, and they were looking for other firefighters like Ray Downey and the 342 others that were trapped and eventually vaporized. So something happened. Whether there's a high explosive material, I think.
Terror, just the simple one. You don't have to. Where did the extra energy come from? Because the explanations are thin. And I am stupid. I can barely spell. My math is just horrible. I like to talk, so it appears maybe I know something, but I don't. But I know their math don't add up on this. I know you have to have extra energy to make stuff happen. No energy, it can't be created, it can only be transformed. We witnessed a huge amount of transformative energy pulverizing shit to dust. Now, look at the video from the earthquake, as tragic as that is. It just falls apart and falls straight down. Now, that's because it wasn't finished and it wasn't a rigid super straight, it was just the frame. But the math there works literally. You can just look at it and the math works. Oh, shaking, fell apart, fall down straight. Boom. Right? What pulverized the 2 buildings on their way down? Or where were all the pancaked floors on top of each other because there shouldn't have been enough energy to literally destroy all the concrete? And that's the discussion that the smart people have. I do like architects and Richard Gage, architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth. I have followed them for a long time. They've been fighting the good fight since day one. I watched them form. There is a huge coalition of architects and engineers who know what they saw. And then when it was all testified about, they just let it all slide. Every time it comes up. Even Jon Stewart went through this when he was trying to, with the Fireman Fund. Short end of the stick. F you. Screw the media. We're not bringing this up no more. We're done with this story. I wonder why they have to be done with this story.
I think it's called fermite, that is used to explode metal and steel and vaporize it. Those tests were never done on that. There were some limited tests that found that there was some evidence of that, the whole thing never.
And there it is. All the independent, because you can't use it somehow. It means nothing. But there was, especially the famous one, the person that had like a sock or someone had took off their clothes, I think, when they got home. Put it up. And here they'd have basically a very low contaminated pile of the 9/11 dust. And just like food and other things, there are lots of individuals doing independent research and analysis of stuff. And I think this comes down to the iron ferrite balls, or I'm stretching myself thin right now, my knowledge base. So forgive me, but I believe it was the little balls of metal that represented the thermite, and then the pools of running metal that are attested to by many people, right? I'm not making that one up. They talk about it. They talked about the I rail, the I beams, and just running rivers of molten steel. What energy did that? Please don't say jet fuel. The memers have already done you in there. You don't win that one. It's not jet fuel.
Was subjected to the kind of investigation that would be warranted when 3,000 people die. I mean, when you have 3,000 people die, you would think it would be a full, massive investigation, not going after 9/11, obviously, but what happened to the buildings and why'd they come down? They're the only high-rise buildings in the world that have ever come down from an airplane hitting them. And those buildings, I read the report from the architect who designed them. They were designed to withstand an airplane hitting the building and standing tall.
And especially Building 7, which had no plane hit it. Right.
No plane hit it. And the building just, you can see it when you watch it on TV, it just implodes straight down. And what really got me again was Oriole Palmer, the battalion chief, arising on the...
Well, tell us who he was. What is...
Okay, Oriole Palmer was one of the most inspirational battalion chiefs in New York.
FDNY.
FDNY, who immediately, in very good shape, had a family, a couple of kids, went into the building as soon as they got on the scene, took the elevator up to the 40th floor, got off the elevator, and you can hear him on the comm system say, "I'm here, 40th floor, we're going to start walking up the stairwells." Every 5 floors, he radios back to communication. "I'm on the 50th floor. Everything's okay. We're on floor 60. Everything's okay." He's going up. Every so many floors, he gives a report. He reaches the 78th floor, the floor of impact. He comes out of the stair tower, and as clear as you listening to me here, and I know I get passionate, and I apologize to your listeners for that. He says, "We're on floor 78, the floor of impact. We've got 2 fires, and we can handle them." 1 minute later, the whole building collapses. That's not normal. That is not acceptable. That is not what happened.
And this is on tape?
It's on tape.
So that was something, if you were watching that day full time, let's say you just gave up and watched for 2 days straight. I think you were able to watch almost 2 to 3 days nonstop. I mean, limited commercials. It was, well, the event of forever. You know, and our fathers, grandfathers, and our future children's lifeline. It was the event. And so much evidence of exploding stairwells in places, basement damage before. But this is all stuff that's not on the record yet. It's like almost can't be. You don't, but you could find it all. And I do remember they had talked about that a couple crews were going to be able to put out the fire, and there's all the person waving from the hole in the wall. Now, if jet fuel was in the process of somehow melting all the steel in the building, that person wouldn't have been there. But they don't show that video. They show the Superman dude plunging to his death with honor. Hearts and minds. And I just think we've come long enough. I had to go this long. Is my number one biggest. Well, gosh, if it comes up, I'd switch to this all time. I mean, as much as it would hurt people, I mean, this is, I think it's the subject.
The film is called Bravo 7. And if your viewers want it, if they contact you, I'll give it to you. It's free. It was produced not by Hollywood. It was produced by firefighters. And it includes the footage, including the firefighter, the footage of the firefighter communication between him and the command center. You can hear him as plain as day saying, "I'm on the impact floor, floor 78. We have 2 fires here. We can control them."
Yeah. And I think there's a strong chance I've seen that too. Because I did see the one, that documentary about the fire crew that was being made, just coincidence. And it captured a lot of things, and it could go 6 hours. I'm not gonna go a full hour. But there, I mean, if that doesn't explain who I am and what I think, then I guess there's no point in trying. I really, Tucker interviewing Kurt Weldon. Um, yeah, that was real. I better do some, now we just do some simple reactions because that was heavy. But I mean, it's been a long time, so it's like I'd rather have that real conversation finally, and it appears more and more of it's coming out. Whew. Good. Later.